So, this month on the Enough Experiment, we are going to talk about relationships. I know many people have had a lot of relationship challenges because it's either too much of a good thing, being together 24/7, cooped up through lockdown can pose some challenges. And equally, if you're happening to be separated from a loved one, that can also be a big challenge. Plus, there's the added wrinkle of COVID bringing up all sorts of like our emotional gumbo, anxieties, not good enoughness in various parts of our lives. And that can really manifest in relationships. So, this is why I wanted to bring on today's guest. I wanted to introduce you to Michaela Thomas, who is a clinical psychologist. She's a couples therapist. She's the founder of the Thomas Connection and author of The Lasting Connection. She's also a podcaster, mom, and pretty groovy human. And she's going to talk us through how we can feel good enough in our relationships. I'm so glad you're here. Thanks for playing with us today.
Well, thank you for having me on, and thank you for doing that introduction of being a groovy human. I love it.
We only interview groovy humans here. So, this whole relationship situation that COVID is bringing up, and I mean, it's only exacerbating things, but what do we do? Like, talk about how, when we're not feeling good enough in relationships, let's actually start with how does that manifest?
Yeah, sure. And I guess as someone working with very perfectionistic or high striving or overachieving people, I might see one particular angle of this that you might not see if you do feel good enough. But because we're talking here about how not enoughness shows up in relationships, I definitely think that it kind of almost like three categories: the thoughts, the feelings, and actions to show up. So a lot of the common thoughts I hear from my clients would be that people think I'm not good enough, I'm not attractive enough, I don't deserve you being kind to me when it comes to their partnerships, or I need to keep doing a bunch of things for people to like me. It's almost like they get thoughts around their worth and then link that to needing to do certain things, right? So almost like I have to hustle for that approval. And that could be that otherwise they get thoughts around how my partner might leave me or they might not love me enough. And I guess that will lead to them feelings of feeling really anxious and worried. What if the relationship will end? Or if they feel convinced that it's actually that's it, it's over, they might feel really sad and upset and disappointed. But a huge feeling that often shows up when we have a lack of self-worth is also shame, feeling ashamed of ourselves, feeling ashamed of our wishes and our urges. And if you constantly do this, if you start to kind of cut yourself short and not express what you want and need, that means that you will also eventually start to feel really resentful. You feel really put upon. And that then leads to your actions that we see. It's almost like falling into two categories of either being really passive, that you withdraw your wishes, you get into people pleasing, you start to do everything that your partner wants you to do and kind of going above and beyond to meet their needs. And it might be you say yes to things you actually don't really want to do, and you don't really set boundaries, you don't say no to things. You might hold back on your opinion, not express what you actually want. And that's the passive side. And the aggressive side is when you start to realize, oh, I'm not getting my needs met. It's never about me. It's all about you. Or we can get the sort of volcanic moment of eruption. We're like, what is wrong with you? Why can't I get this and this and that? So we see people actually really spreading themselves too thin and then exploding when they realize that they've been doing that and feeling unfulfilled. And that's kind of, it's not particularly balanced, if you may. So the result of doing those three things, those thoughts, actions, and feelings, is that you feel really resentful, but not just you, but also your partner might feel resentful, because when you never express how you actually think and feel about things and not getting your needs met, it's not good for your partner either. They might feel like they don't get to know you, they don't get to please you, and that actually can be really, really unbalanced long term. It can even potentially get dangerous if you stay in a relationship that's not giving you a sense of worth at all. So that's something I see quite frequently when working with perfectionistic people.
So, this also, when we overlay COVID on top of this, where our
Yeah.
emotions are already in turmoil, this can be a real challenge. And this is why I think it's really important to talk about this also with holiday season coming up.
Yeah.
And, that there's a lot going on. So could you create an experiment for us where we can actually start to take small, consistent steps to make a shift in the way that we're showing up in our relationship? And really, I mean, really, it's spoiler alert here, but we're all already enough. If you've been on this
Yes.
experiment now, we're on month 11. So spoiler alert, we're already enough. And how we can relate to ourselves differently in
Mm.
relationships when those not enough gremlins start popping up in these circumstances that you describe. What do we do?
And they really do pop up, and we have to. I like that way of seeing them as gremlins, just kind of thoughts that just hook you away from acting like you want to act. So, one way to try to do this is just trying to act as if you are enough. And if you were enough, how would you behave in your relationship? So, I've got 3 steps to follow, which you can read more about in the worksheet as well, that we can download, with some really tangible, actionable steps of everyday situations that you can try to follow. So if you're more of a thinker and you just want to get some clarity and some insight, this is for you. If you're more of a doer and you want to try something practical, this is also for you. But in order for us to find the balance, not go into sort of not staying in the passive, but also not jumping straight into the aggressive and racing hell with your partner, we need to find the balance in between. Otherwise, you run the risk of throwing out the baby with the bathwater. So, as I teach people to be more compassionate with themselves and their partner, it really starts with you. So, I want you to start to think of the first step of tuning into your own needs a lot more. And that can be really hard for women who've been raised to be people pleasers, to always do what other people want, to be a good girl. And that can be really difficult to start to shake her out of that. So, knowing that this is not just you, this is a societal problem. But if you get the permission to start tuning into you a bit more, what do I need in this moment? What do I need to have more of or less of? What do I need to ask for? And doing so mindfully means that we also tune into the gremlins. We need to be aware of, like, oh, here's a thought that's hooking me away from asking for my needs to be met, because the thought might be saying, actually, you're not worthwhile, or you don't deserve to have your needs met. So we want to just notice that thought and, like, here's another thought, right? The second thing we want to do is to notice our partner's need. So this is not a one-sided thing. I'm not teaching people to become self-entitled, to set boundaries, or to stand up for yourself. It's not about being aggressive. It's about being assertive. So we want to balance your needs with your partner's needs. So step number 2 is to tune into, what does your partner need right now? What's going on for them? And I guess COVID has taught us more so than ever that we are all struggling at this point. So nobody's winning in your relationship right now, I'd imagine. So tuning into your partner, what do they need? And what can I do to meet that in a way that is about compromising between my needs and their needs? It's not about sacrificing your needs for the sake of their needs. That's unhealthy. So it's almost like more like a seesaw, where you can try to balance your needs in with their needs. So the experiment is to try to remember to do those 3 steps of tuning into your needs. What do I need? What do I want? Secondly, tuning into your partner's needs. What do they need? What do they want? Thinking about finding that balance. And then fourth, trying to set something actionable in place. What could I say yes to? What could I say no to? Can I say yes to myself? And that means I have to say no to my partner. Or maybe it's not just even a dynamic between you and your partner. Sometimes it's about setting boundaries outside of your relationship to protect your relationship. Because when you are well, your relationship is more likely to be well. When your
Yes.
relationship is well, you are more likely to be well. There's a really strong correlation between how your relationship is doing and how you are doing, back and forth, chicken and egg. Right. So
Great.
that's where the experiment is, to try to tune into these things mindfully without judgment. What's going on for you? What do you need? What do they need? How do you find the balance where it's a compromise, not a sacrifice? And then taking an actionable step. What can I do today? And you will have some suggestions in the worksheet that will help you along.
So the worksheet has a lot of very practical situations that give you, when this happens, try this. So wonderful. How can people find out more about you, Michaela?
So you can go to my website, thethomasconnection.co.uk, or you can follow me on all the socials under the Thomas Connection, or if you search for Michaela Thomas. You can also come and join my Facebook group, Pause, Purpose, Play, which is also the name of my podcast. And both of those, the group and the podcast, is directed towards women who are high striving, but might be actually a bit too hard on yourselves, even though you might be kind to others. Is finding a bit more balance in your life rather than burnout. So you can tune into those things. And I've also got my upcoming book, which is about relationship connection, which I'm very psyched about. It's coming out in February 2021. and it's called The Lasting Connection. And in January, I'll be doing a month of a bunch of couples things around that. So do tune into my socials if you want to keep track of this.
Thank you so much for joining us. I can't wait to get into this experiment.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting me.